live from the Command Center. It is the Command Center. I am your host, Joseph Henry. Hope that everyone has had a good few days. It's been about, I think, 11 days since our last episode, but very, very excited to be back. Not sure if anybody saw, you should be following me at the Command Center podcast on Instagram and Twitter, but I was actually at Washington Commanders training camp this past Saturday. I went down to D.C. with my dad for the session. Very fun, very exciting, a lot to talk about. It's been a little bit since our last episode, so a lot has happened. There's that section in the NFL season where it's kind of like the dead times, and we're kind of past that now. We're getting ready for preseason. Training camp is starting up, and just so much excitement and so much great Commander stuff to talk about. I know I'm excited, and I hope that everybody else is too. It's been a lot of fun lately being a Commanders fan, which is not something that is easily said. For anybody interested, I'm wearing my Antonio Gibson Commanders away jersey right now. This was the first Commanders jersey I got. I got it off DHgate, which is a really fantastic bootleg website. It took about 2.5 months to come in, but it's pretty high quality. It's actually stitched on, so it's a little bit more durable than some of the printed on jerseys that you see nowadays. But I have this, a T-Mac regular home jersey, and then a alternate black Jonathan Allen jersey. So I'm going to be showing off my different Commanders merchandise throughout the rest of the episodes. I got my gray Commanders hat right here. I got some other hats around here, but yes, very excited to be back. I hope everybody's good and excited to talk Commanders as always. So starting off, Command the News. First segment. Last week we didn't have too much to talk about, but it's really time to command the news because we have a lot going on. So last episode was, I believe, July 20. It was about 10 days ago, so probably July 21st, July 22nd. And on July 27th, Josh Harris had his meeting with the NFL owners and was approved to be the new owner of the Washington Commanders. Well, it's an ownership group led by Josh Harris. He's the main contributor. Also notable members are Magic Johnson. But yeah, he was approved in an NFL meeting, unanimous voting, and Dan Snyder, the bad man, is officially gone. Great stuff. Happy to have him gone. And yeah, I mean, after that, Washington kind of just took that and ran with it. I mean, there were parties in D.C. I live in New Jersey, so I wasn't able to go to any of them, but I did see, and I thought it was awesome and exciting, and you see all these different things going on, and Josh Harris called into a radio show. I think it was The Fan there, was having a live party from Dan Snyder, and Josh Harris called in and offered to buy everyone a beer, and he did so, which is a lot of money, but to a guy that makes about as much money as him, probably not that much money. And yeah, the fan base, since the selling has kind of just come out of the woodwork, it reminds me a few years ago of the New York Knicks when they were one of the worst teams in the NBA. Still had a very prominent fan base, but you're trash. Not a lot of fans come out, and they still sold out MSG, but in terms of like fan engagement, stuff like that, and Washington was never selling out games, and they probably won't now because it's the NFL. But it feels like this fantastic fan base from the '90s that's so rich and cares so much is now back, and we've seen all these different things. I mean, training camp has been absolutely packed. I went, and it was just completely amazing to see so many fans there. Kevin Durant, NBA superstar, was there. Really awesome to see him. He's a diehard Washington Commanders fan as well. But yes, Josh Harris, the new owner, he's been very involved. Been doing a lot of press conferences, a lot of stuff like that. Everybody just seems so happy. The fans, the players, talking about new culture, new time. Ron Rivera just seems relieved to really have one of the worst owners in NFL history out the door. One thing that is interesting to talk about, however, with this situation with Josh Harris is a potential name change. So rumors have come out that Josh Harris and the ownership group is thinking about changing the name of the Washington Commanders, which famously was in part of that whole problem with the Redskins name, and then that was removed, and then it was a football team, and then it was Commanders, and now Josh Harris's group is saying, well, we want to see what the city wants, right? If they're really involved and engaged with this name, we want to build on that, but we also are open to the idea of a new name, things like that. Me personally, I don't want a new name. I think that the transition from Redskins to football team to Commanders was already a lot for fans. I mean, I have bought so much Commanders merchandise and kind of gotten on board with that. And it seems like the general consensus from fans is that it doesn't really matter what the name is as long as the team is winning, and the team doesn't win. So I think if the Commanders start winning, I don't think anybody will care about the name. You only care about the name when the team sucks, because that's all you can really talk about. But Josh Harris seems to, he grew up in D.C. He grew up a Redskins fan, so I think that he wants to change the name maybe back to Redskins. I'm not sure. I think that would be stupid and a little bit insensitive, because you made such a big deal about how it was an offensive name, and then you change it, and then you change it back. It feels wrong to me. If you're going to make the switch, stay to it, and if you're not going to make that switch, honor that name and just stand by it. So, not sure. I hope they don't change the name, but it seems like right now Josh Harris is talking about, yeah, we want to change the name, we want to switch things up, which feels weird to me, and I don't love that. So, we'll see, but a lot of player and fan engagement. Joe Theismann at practice, just all these guys out and about. Hopefully, we'll get John Riggins back, Diesel, who has famously hated Dan Snyder, and it would be awesome to have Riggins back along with Theismann. So some other news from Commanders. Byron Pringle, wide receiver with the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a pretty productive season last year, about 500 plus yards and a couple of touchdowns. He signed with Washington. Not really a camp body, more of a guy that could really compete for that, fifth, sixth wide receiver spot on the depth chart, potentially even move up. I think that top four is solidified with McLaurin, Dotson, Samuel, and Brown. But then after that, it's a lot of guesses. I mean, the main guy you'd be talking about is Dax Milne, but we'll talk about when we get to the training camp segment how Dax Milne hasn't exactly impressed so far this summer. But also Tim Demerat, Fordham quarterback, who was a big part of what we talked about in the last episode because I'm a New Jersey guy. My brother goes to Fordham. He was cut. Xavier Henderson, defensive back, was cut, and then Michael Badgley, kicker, was brought in to compete with Joey Sly in training camp. So some moves there, some personnel moves, and yeah, also Jamin Davis, third-year inside linebacker for the Washington Commanders, has had some legal situations going on. I've got the information here, but he's in potentially facing a jail sentence. Another one of these classic situations with NFL guys struggling with, keeping their emotions in check. So Davis has been found guilty of going 114 miles an hour in a 45-mile-per-hour zone at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on March 20th, 2022. So this is a while ago, in London County, Virginia, and was sentenced to 30 days of jail time, as well as a suspended license and fine. This was coming from the Washington Post. I'm reading this from a John Keim article. John Keim, fantastic Washington beat reporter. Davis originally requested a jury trial to appeal the conviction before withdrawing the request to negotiate a plea deal that would have resulted in no more than 8 days after incarceration. However, this was denied, so now everything is kind of up in the air, and he could be facing jail time. We're not sure. It wouldn't be a lot of jail time, but as we're in that preseason mode, obviously, he would miss time in terms of training camp and potentially even games. So that's going to be something we monitor very closely here. The linebacking group is one that has been extremely thin all throughout Ron Rivera's tenure. You draft Jamin Davis in the first round with Cole Holcomb. This season, they lost Cole Holcomb in free agency and signed Cody Barton. It seems like they're intent on always having two linebackers, inside linebackers that are great, and never adding a third one. I know Anthony Walker Jr., the Browns linebacker, came for a visit this offseason, and then Washington refused to sign him. I thought that would have been a fantastic move for the team, but Washington disagreed. So now we got guys like Milo Eifler and David Mayo in the backup spot for the third consecutive year, which has never worked out well because once an injury comes or a guy gets gassed or something like this with Davis, you need a third inside linebacker, and all those guys are frankly liabilities. Maybe Khalil Hudson can step it up this season, though we'll see. But yeah, not much more news. All of the news really came from training camp. No major injuries in training camp so far. Some minor stuff. I know Deron Payne was dealing with toe stuff, but when I went, he was fully participating in 11-on-11. So everything seems good on the injury front. But yeah, big talking points. Josh Harris, new owner. A lot of fantastic changes. I know training camp was already updated. They're adding video boards to the stadium. Tickets are crazy right now. Week 1 is a sellout against the Cardinals, which is going to have a lot of hype and anticipation. Yeah, everything looks great right now. Everybody's hyped out of their minds. Me personally, I love this team, and I'm an excited fan for this upcoming season. That being said, I just care about the football product. If they're not going to win games, why am I going to get excited about a new owner? It really comes down to, at the end of the day, what's going to change. Like, if this guy brings in a third linebacker, which is something the fans have been asking for years now, then I'll be like, all right, things are finally changing. Things are finally changing, but we'll see. I mean, there's a lot to talk about with Josh Harris, but it seems like a lot of focus right now is on the name and a potential name change. One, it doesn't matter what their name is. It matters if they win football games. Two, I don't want them to change the Commanders' name. How are you going to have hundreds of fans buying hundreds of thousands of dollars of merchandise? I mean, my podcast is called The Command Center. I have so much Commanders merchandise. It's ridiculous. I shouldn't have this much, but I love the team and I support the name. Like, you can't change it now. I mean, like, but we'll see, right? It all comes in waves and ebbs and flows. I mean, to go back to Redskins would be very, very fascinating and a controversial talking point, but that would be something we've discussed. But yes, that's it for Command the News. Seems like we got a lot of stuff down. Our next segment is going to be talking about training camp, a lot of training camp news and stuff to discuss there, but we'll leave that for the next segment. But yeah, episode 3 of the Command Center. Hope that you guys are enjoying, and we'll keep it going. I'll see you in the next segment. So, Washington Commanders training camp is underway today on July 31st was day 5 of training camp, and today was one of the first days that didn't have fans in attendance, and a lot of time has gone now with practice and seeing these players kind of get some work in, so it feels like we're starting to see who's emerging as standing out and maybe who's struggling, and there's a lot to talk about with that. So let's just go over some of these notes really quick from things that I've seen, things that I've read, or things that I've noticed when I went. First and foremost, practice has been absolutely packed. I mean, I went on Back Together Saturday, which is probably going to be the most popular day, but every single practice has been really just slammed with people. If anybody follows Nikki Jabal on Twitter, I think that's her last name, I'm not sure, but she's a fantastic reporter for the Commanders on the beat there, and she just posted a photo that I think I reposted by the ESPN page, 2022 to 2023 in terms of how many fans were there, and it's just night and day difference. I mean, this new ownership change has really brought the fan base out, and it just feels like there's so much excitement in the air, and yeah, everybody's there, standing room only, really, if you get there past a certain time. I know when I went, I was on one of the first shuttles. To go to training camp starts at 9, and shuttles from the parking lot, they have you park at the mall, and then you take a shuttle from 7:30 on, and it brings you to training camp, and there was a line for shuttles at 7:30, so it's just been really electric so far. And yeah, so another thing, Howell has been up and down. One thing I noticed from Howell when I went was that Howell, he's getting the 1 reps with the starters. Howell doesn't miss the easy ones. He can put a lot of great velocity on a short route. He likes to move his hips and his feet quickly. He doesn't get caught in bad footwork. He doesn't get caught in not putting enough steam or enough accuracy on a short throw. One thing you see a lot in the NFL with young quarterbacks or just bad quarterbacks is they don't make the easy ones. So we've seen this with Zach Wilson last year, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, these younger guys who have so much arm power, but they can't hit the easy checkdowns. In practice, Howell did not miss an easy throw. Everything was right on the money. Guys like Brissett and Jake Fromm were kind of up and sideways and kind of missing some throws that were really straight on and quick and fast, but Howell was quick. He took the snap, moved his feet, and then just dropped it off for a quick little pass, which is important. You need to have your starting quarterback be able to do that. Carson Wentz could not do that last year. But we'll talk about Howell more in a little bit. Cam Curl has been a huge standout. He's in a contract year for the Commanders right now. Somebody asked him, one of the reporters asked him about his contract situation. He said, the only thing I'm worried about is getting picks. And he said, I'm not worried about contracts, I just want to play well. And he's gotten a few picks in training camp so far. He's been really, really good and standing out, and should be a big year for him. The former 7th round safety has been a big part of this Commanders team ever since he was drafted, and he's been doing a lot of great stuff. Terry McLaurin, obviously standout, always fantastic. He's catching everything, and he's establishing a really good connection with Sam Howell, which is obviously very important because you're looking at this guy as a week 1 starter, hopefully franchise quarterback. Terry came out with a quote today, actually, on July 31st and said that the most important thing in the NFL nowadays, because it is a quarterback-driven league, is finding that quarterback and that guy and building around him. And they said that they still haven't found that guy, but they're hoping that Sam can be that guy for them, which maybe shows not so much confidence in Howell as it seems. And Howell's kind of had a bad last few days at camp, but maybe I'm over analyzing that, but I know there's certain guys on the team who have said that Howell is that guy. So for Terry, your main receiver, to say that you're still looking for that guy, maybe a little bit of a slighted Howell, I'm not sure. I haven't read the full quote. I've just read the little excerpt. So just wanted to inform the fans on what I've heard from that quote. Second round pick Quan Martin has been all over the ball apparently in training camp, doing a fantastic job of not necessarily getting interceptions, but whenever the ball is thrown, he's either right next to the guy that catches it and bringing him down, breaking it up, or if somebody gets the ball, he will chase after them, which is great. Going defensive back in the first and second round of the draft really shows the emphasis. And now that DB room is stacked for Washington. Got Cam Curl, Derek Forrest, Percy Butler, Kendall Fuller, Emmanuel Forbes, Quan Martin, got Benjamin St. Juste. Just a lot of talent all over the place. So that free safety, strong safety, and corner, slot corner, second corner room in terms of starting should be filled with talent top to bottom. And one of the main talking points of camp so far has been the left guard position. So when I went to Commanders training camp, I saw the starting offensive line assignment, and it looked pretty standard as to what you'd expect. From left over to right, it went Charles Leno at left tackle, Sadiq Charles, the former fourth-round pick from Ron Rivera's first draft in Washington. He's part of that Antonio Gibson, Chase Young draft class. He's getting the start at left guard. Then Nick Gates at center, Sam Cosmi at right guard, and Andrew Wiley at right tackle. So interesting to see those guys. I know that Sam Cosmi has been a little bit of a polarizing figure for the Commanders these past few years. They drafted him in the second round in the Jamin Davises draft class to kind of be their starting right tackle after they released Morgan Moses. And that was, he got action there, but he kind of struggled with injuries and also not consistent playing time. Excuse me. And then in his second season, he was starting right tackle, but then injuries kept him out. Then he was a right guard. Then he wasn't playing some weeks. And he even said at the end of the year that he wasn't really sure what happened this season or what the Commanders' plan for him was. Now, it looks like he's the everyday starting right guard, but weird situation there. And they need good production from him given how old the rest of this offensive line is. But at left guard, it seems like it's a competition between former fourth-round pick and then I believe he was a fifth or sixth-round pick, Chris Paul, from last year's draft class with Jahan Dotson. Didn't play at all as a rookie, but apparently the organization, from what I've heard, is very, very high on him, and they like him a lot as a player. I don't have the great inside sources, but there are some people that I hear things from, and I know that Chris Paul has been a really highly prominent player that the organization views highly for the future, and that him and Sadiq Charles are kind of splitting reps in the first team right now. Ron Rivera is absolutely hyped. Ron Rivera is a guy who came in year one. He was the GM, the head coach, a lot of things. Then he lost that. He didn't lose that GM role, but he got to delegate some of that power to Martin Mayhew and Marty Herney. And year two, he seemed to be a little bit more relaxed. Then now the ownership goes away. He gets a new owner in, even more relaxed. He seems happy, gets to finally just focus on football and kind of enjoy the swing of things. And it's good to see for Ron because it's a lot of stress on him the way things have gone the past few years. Certain guys, I mean, obviously the tragedy with Dwayne Haskins, the Shazer Elliott, controversies with Alex Smith, controversies with the name change. He's had a lot to deal with, and he had cancer. So to see him happy is really great. When I was at training camp, he actually came out at the end of camp to thank us all for coming, and at the end he said, "Are you not entertained?" which is a line from The Gladiator. I think it's just Gladiator. I've never seen the movie, so hyped Ron, love to see it, very excited. I'm excited too, Ron, so thanks for sharing that with us. Also, Emmanuel Forbes has really stood out. Brian Robinson, Diami Brown has stood out, who I'm expecting to have a really big season. Him and Sam Howell have that UNC connection where he was Howell's main target at UNC. and Brown got to go in the third round of the draft because of the production that he had with Howell. So Brown's really stood out. I feel like he's going to be a big part of the deep ball offense that Eric Bieniemy's probably trying to create. Robinson has had a good time, and also Deron Payne has been excellent. So, I mean, the players that you expect to stand out are standing out, but also Diami Brown, Emmanuel Forbes having big time. These younger guys, Forbes had a pick while I was there off Howell. We'll talk about that more when I give my thoughts from what I saw from training camp, which we'll do right now because that's all the notes I have from other sources from training camp. I had work today, so voice is a little bit chapped, but still got to make the content, folks. I love talking about the Commanders, and hope anybody who's listening enjoys. Also, forgot to give a shout out. I said I'd shout out all my subscribers. I got 2 new subscribers after that second episode, so we're growing, people. We're doubling. The community is growing and thriving. I want to thank Lorraine Guzman and Maggie Cayley for subscribing to the channel. Hope they're enjoying. Yet again, if anybody is interested in more content, the Command Center podcast Twitter handle and the Command Center Instagram page are all run by me, and I post there. You can talk with me, anything like that. So yeah. But now to talk about what I saw from training camp. I went from back together Saturday, and it was pretty good. It was awesome. It was so unbelievably hot. I live in New Jersey, so it was about a 3.5 hour drive. My dad and I left at 4 in the morning. He took me for my birthday, which was really fun. He's a fantastic father. Very lucky to have him. He's a Cowboys fan, but he loves me more than he hates the Commanders, so it evens out pretty well. But great time. Fantastic time. Had Raising Cane's when I was down there, which was a lot of fun. That was great food. I love that sauce, man. I work at Chick-fil-A, so it's always a battle of sauces, and I like the Raising Cane sauce a lot. But anyway, so I went on 29th, super hot, but I was up close there and personal. Saw Major Tidy doing some dance moves, saw a lot of guys out there, and these were some of my notes. So on the 29th, before practice really started, because the main thing you want to see a lot from is 11 on 11s, right? And that's only for like about 10 minutes in one practice. But before that started, they were doing jugs machine practices. So the ball was shooting up, and then receivers were catching it, trying to return it, right? And, it's obviously going to be a big point of who's going to get that return man job. Last season, it was Gibson, it was Milne, it was a lot of different guys, but there was no production. Milne was particularly bad in that role, the former 7th round wide receiver pick. But they were practicing that, had different guys out there. Note, McLaurin and Samuel were obviously not there, but Dotson was. So Dotson is a candidate to return these kicks this season, which I think is interesting. Dax Milne dropped back-to-back on the jugs machine. The crowd was not happy with it at all. And then he said, no, I want to stay for another one. Give me another chance. Because before it was like one guy goes, whether you drop it or not. But Milne was like, no, I need another one. So he goes, catches the third one. And then, But then during 11 on 11s, he had an easy throw, and he dropped it. So Milne struggling a little bit, holding on to the football. Right now, between the 3 quarterbacks, Jake Fromm, Jacoby Brissett, and Howell. Howell is easily the smallest of them. He's pretty muscular, but in terms of height, he's just not that tall, and we know Ron Rivera loves having that big, strong, tall quarterback. So part of the reason probably why Washington let Taylor Heineke walk and brought in Jacoby Brissett is because Heineke's a little bit of a small guy too. And, we've had tall quarterbacks every year on the roster. Alex Smith, Dwayne Haskins, Carson Wentz. So they probably wanted that tall guy because Howell's not too big. Talked about the offensive line. Leno, Charles, Gates, Cosme, Wiley from left to right. One thing we've seen I saw a lot in practice was Samuel out of the backfield. Curtis Samuel, the wide receiver. But he also has a little bit of running back flexibility. I think he's probably the best person you could potentially use in that Deebo Samuel type role. We know that after Deebo Samuel had that big season where he was kind of running out of the backfield, making huge plays, things like that every team was like, oh, we want a Deebo Samuel type. I remember hearing a rumor that Ramondre Stevenson, the Patriots running back, was going to be using a Deebo Samuel type. But he's a power back. So what you really need is like an elusive running back type player, and Samuel was out of the backfield. He was on little out routes, stuff like that. So it seems like he's going to be very used in screen passes, something that Scott Turner didn't use a whole lot of him with, but it feels like there's a lot of potential for that. Screen to Logan Thomas a few times, which was fascinating. He's going to be that Travis Kelce type player in this Eric Bieniemy offense. Obviously, not even near as talented as Travis Kelce, who's easily a future Hall of Famer. But Thomas looks pretty good, and if he can stay healthy, he should have a good year. He's been banged up the past 2 seasons, but his first year with Washington under Ron Rivera was really good when he signed that extension. Excuse me. My voice is really hurting because at work I was talking a lot today. And then really good footwork by Howell. He's really fast and moves quick with it. One thing we heard a lot last season was how hard it is to get good footwork from college to the NFL because you have to be fast, you have to be quick, you have to be able to move. Howell was not making any off-body throws, any cross-body, any bad adjustment throws. It was a lot of straight up, like turn, adjust, and throw and fire, which I love to see. He was doing a fantastic job with that. Quick hustle back to the huddle. Very fast-paced practice environment. I love to see it. All throws by Howell were pretty good. Brissett sometimes was higher to the side, but Howell was always on the money. Always on the money in these simple practice stuff. I'm talking about like when the quarterbacks are lined up and they just throw to the receiver. Not 11 on 11s yet, but just that practice stuff. Howell was nailing those guys in the face. Not in a bad way, like he was getting them in the money, but Brissett and Fromm struggled with that a little bit. Howell was consistent, very consistent. So, talking about 11 on 11's most important part of practice. First up, Howell, beautiful quick pass to Thomas. It was a quick snap and then just throw, fire, really good stuff. And then second play in the 11 on 11's, Howell was pressured and it was a back foot throw and it was intercepted by Emmanuel Forbes. So it was a bad decision by Howell to throw it. He should have just taken the sack or tried to scramble or gone for a check down, but seems like what he did was I don't know. He tried to do too much with it. Tried to play hero ball, and he was pressured, and it was a bad play, and he threw a pick. So not fantastic. Next play after that was a deep throw to Terry McLaurin that he just sailed over him, and then the play after that was Howell bad footwork, bad throw off the back foot, and then another sailing throw. So he had a really good pass to start off, and then he went 0 for 3 on the next 3 with a pick. And three balls that were just, 2 of them that could have easily been completions for big yardage, but instead ended up being incompletions from inaccuracy, which is not something you're used to seeing from Howell. He's usually pretty good on those deep throws, but that was disappointing to see. He had really great footwork all throughout practice, but then after he threw that pick, it seems like maybe things got to him mentally a little bit. Then. Good play action, rollout pass, another sail over McLaurin, good quick pass. It seems like he's really great on the quick passes, the screens and stuff, but in training camp at least, he's struggling with the deep balls, maybe because he's worried about the pressure, stuff like that. I'm not sure. It's something he's going to have to work through, but he was kind of up and down. But, I mean, compared to the other 2 quarterbacks, I've seen people say, Jacoby Brissett's going to start, Jake Fromm. Guys, it's going to be Howell. It's going to be Howell no matter what. The thing is, how consistent can Howell get? I'm happy he's making these mistakes now and stuff like that. The footwork is good. He just has to know, in life, you're not always going to succeed. You're going to fail. Sometimes you're in a losing situation no matter what. Howell needs to know in the NFL when he's not going to be able to make a big play. Sometimes you have to throw it away. Sometimes you have to take a sack. There's a big difference between throwing it away, taking a sack, trying to take off from one with it, and throwing an interception, especially in the NFL. Every game in the NFL feels like it's a different game if one play goes the other way. Howell cannot turn the ball over. Washington has had too many quarterbacks with interceptions and things like that, and he's going to have to work on that. But it seems like he just, he's been kind of up and down. He started off camp really well, only 1 pick, but after this practice and the past few days, it's kind of been back and forth. But he's been good, folks. It's just talking about, excellent. But he's not been as bad as Carson Wentz was last year in training camp. I'll tell you that right now. He was atrocious last year. Then I went to second team. Tariq Castro Fields, the cornerback, had a good breakup in second team. Then a good rush by Milo Eifler on a blitz, who's kind of the fourth, fifth string inside linebacker right now. Awful interception by Jake Fromm. I mean, there was nobody home there, just a really bad overthrown deep ball. And then Jacoby Brissett looks pretty good, but he's a backup quarterback, and it's always, my dad and I were talking about this on the way home. When you have a backup, it always feels like, well, what could he offer to the team? But when you have a known quantity at quarterback and it's average or backup average, why are you going to play him over Howell, who's an unknown entity with high upside? People forget how much talent Howell has. I've seen firsthand his arm strength. He can fire it on a dime. It's just about, he makes the easy throws. It's just about the harder throws, and I feel like that will come with time. When a guy can't make the easy ones, that's something to worry about. But Howell can hit those. He can hit those, and he can work with them. Nick Gates had 2 high snaps with Howell there. It's fun to see a new quarterback and center combination. Gates was a center for the Giants last year. He struggled with some injuries, and then he came back and was pretty good and signed a deal with Washington. A little bit of a gamble to make him the starting center, given his injury history, and a pretty big contract too. Chase Roulier was cut due to injury over the past few seasons, and we'll see what happens. It was an interesting move to go with Gates and Wiley and these older offensive linemen on kind of big contracts, given their production hasn't been the best, but we'll see how it pans out. I mean, I'm really more interested to see how guys like Cosme, Leno, Charles, and potentially Chris Paul, if he gets in there, perform. We've also got the rookie offensive lineman, too, who could slide in if necessary. I'm sorry. I'll try not to drink so much water the next episode. But yeah, Gates had a high snap to Howell. Howell pulled it down. And the next one, it went over his head. Howell's not that tall. He's only 6-something. I say that I'm 6'6", so it's a little bit different. I am 6'6", actually. I'm pretty tall. This is probably doesn't... I realize now that doesn't really show. I would try to cut that, but I'm still trying to figure out how to use Adobe Premiere, so I'm sorry I won't be able to cut that. But, yeah, I'm sorry for any audio issues. I try to get everything working well, but Adobe Premiere is kind of tricky sometimes for me as I'm still learning it on the fly. Don't have a production team yet. We'll get that probably by next episode. No, I'm kidding. That won't be coming anytime soon. But, yeah, definitely interesting training camp stuff. That's really all the notes I have and that I've seen from media and stuff. With Howell, it's going to be a learning process. This is like his rookie season last year. He was third string behind Wentz and Heineke and didn't get a whole lot of action. So up there with the first team guys, you're getting rushed by 4 former first-round picks in Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, and then a second round in Fedarian Mathis. So it's a lot of power, a lot of Alabama power up the interior. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm really excited to see what comes from Howell and everything. But yeah, training camp has looked pretty good so far. A lot of guys standing out that you'd expect to stand out. Excited to see what Brown and Forbes can contribute so early on in their young careers. Really going to be interested to see how things are split between Robinson and Gibson. I think I've always said this. Antonio Gibson is kind of the glue of the Commanders' offense. He was great in practice. I mean, he's always great. Like, he can run it well. He's a fantastic elusive back, and now you get the power with Robinson. But what he does well is bridge the long, deep throws and the crossers to guys like McLaurin with the inside runs and the short routes, because he can take those screen plays, stuff like that. And the same thing with Robinson last year. But Gibson's really, I think, has the potential to be great as that third down back and maybe potentially slot receiver. I mean, he played wide receiver in college and converted to running back in the NFL. He's jacked. I mean, he's a beefy guy, big thighs. So we'll see what happens. I mean, going to be interesting to see how he fits into the offense. But I hope he gets a lot of production because, he's a fantastic player. But, yeah, I mean, training camp, about 5 days underway now. I want to give shout-outs to guys like J.P. Finley, Nicky Jabal, Pete Haley, Rick Snyder, and what's the main guy? John Keim, I'm sorry. Brian Mitchell. These fantastic guys. Speaking of, I got a Brian Mitchell autograph when I was at training camp. Pretty sick. He's a fantastic reporter and was an even better player. So really great to have this. I got a fist bump from J.P. Finley. Really great Washington guys. I love hearing the way they report on the team. A lot of my information comes from them. But yeah, recommend following them on Twitter and everything like that, listening to their stuff as well. But you can only get the Command Center here. So really interesting stuff. A lot of promising things, and should be a great year to be a Washington fan, man. I mean, listen, we got new ownership. Things don't go well, then we got Josh Harris's money and mind to kind of figure out the new age. But I think things are going to go well this year. I think Howell's going to be pretty good. I mean, it's promising, right? Like, he hits a lot of deep throws, but sometimes he messes up. He's a young guy, and we'll figure it out. I'm excited to see. But from what I've seen, and I was there first in hand, I was like, I think he's going to be a good player for us this year, which I have not seen him in person yet. So after that, I was like, yeah, he's going to be good. He's going to be good. But yeah, hope everybody enjoyed on the Command Center. Hopefully going to have episode 4 out shortly after this. I'm going to try to get my release schedule going faster. Hopefully one next week. But yeah, hope everybody enjoyed. As always, it was so much fun to talk Commanders with you guys. And yeah, subscribe, like, comment, talk to me, whatever you want to do. If anybody's got any thoughts, things I said that they agree with, disagree with, I'd love the fan interaction. We're all just Commanders fans at the end of the day. Yeah, training camp was awesome. I'd recommend going. Yeah, follow me on the Command Center Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, everybody have a good time, and I'll see you next one in the Command Center. Bye-bye.